first of all, I wanted to ask you about where you were born.
I was born in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Buffalo, New York.
Okay, so lucky to have both of you with us though here. And you met in college or something?
No, in St. Louis. I worked for Carl in his research lab.
Oh, okay. And was that an independent lab that you had?
It was part of Washington University.
Okay. In your early years, you were educated Arkansas?
Right.
Okay. And
All over.
okay. And how about college?
Colgate, University of Chicago, and then I started on the NIH, and from there I got into well, let's say academic medicine.
Okay. And so your college was...
I did not go to college.
Okay, okay. And what about family? You were married in what year? And
Carl and I were married in 1992.
okay. And I think I saw that you have a grandchild.
We have 3 grandchildren.
3 grandchildren. Okay.
I have a daughter from a previous marriage,
Uh-huh.
and we have 3 beautiful grandchildren.
Okay. I think I saw that one.
Yeah.
That was adorable, and your daughter as well. Okay, so what brought you to Herman? What made you decide? Were you retired then? Or?
Carl had been doing research, cancer research down in Texas, and it became very difficult to get research grants, and so it just became a time in our life to retire, and I chose not to want to live in Texas any longer, so we came back to Missouri to be closer to Jennifer and her husband, and then eventually grandchildren, and we enjoyed wine country, and here we are.
Mm-hmm. And so at some point, once you got here, you saw there was a need that could be filled in the community. It seems like the two of you have been really active. What got you started with community service?
I think it was just a time to where when we retired, we finally found a community where we wanted to give something back into a community that we enjoyed and had the time to do it. And Carl started out on the school board.
School board and hospital board.
And when you've been here longer than we have, the first thing that I was aware of that you were working on was the Community Foundation of the Ozarks. How did you get involved with that? Because weren't you one of the charter organizing members?
I was. It started through sort of a joke, and Steve Mueller had been at a Merrimack Regional Planning Commission meeting, and he heard a fellow from the Ozarks speak about it, and he said, maybe we should just give this a whirl. I said, oh, okay. It doesn't cost us much, and we can try it out, see if it works. And it worked.
Well, I think going back to why that all got started was initially in 1999 when Carl was diagnosed with cancer. We were involved in the American Cancer Society Relay for Life. And we did that for a few years. And while it's a good effort, there's very little money that's raised that comes back into the community. And a lot of the people on the committee with us, we met and decided that we wanted to do something different to be able to raise money and assist families in the Herman area with needs that are not covered by insurance. And to do that, then you needed a 501c3 tax exempt, and that's what got started with the foundation of the Ozarks and then eventually the Community Foundation of the Herman area. And the Crusade Against Cancer is a part of that.
And both of those I mean, the Foundation for Herman and the Crusade Against Cancer, both have grown dramatically since
Right.
you started. And I'm
Right.
thinking, I'm not sure what year we came out of one, so what was it? 6?
Yeah, 6.
Something on there.
Is that the year it was?
Well, it started in 5, and we started giving out money in 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recall that was quite the effort, and I'm proud of the fact that you started that and got that going. You're constantly solicited by people to give to the cancer research and so forth, and my answer is always, well, we're keeping it in the community with the contributions. But so are either of you still on the hospital board, or how is that?
I'm on the hospital board now.
Okay. And you've been on the board for how many years, do you think?
I think this is my 4th year.
4th year. And you're involved in the auxiliary?
I am. I'm no longer president after 12 years. I got someone else finally to take it over. But stemming out of that, I'm on the board of directors for the Missouri Association of Hospital Auxiliaries now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow, that's a rewarding effort as well. And is it an extension of the Crusade Against Cancer or of the auxiliary, but you do a number of fundraisers that you're involved with? The fashion show, and golf tournaments, and what else?
the fashion show is with the auxiliary, the hospital auxiliary. There is a golf tournament for the hospital and auxiliary, and then the Crusade Against Cancer also has a golf tournament.
Keeping busy.
Was.
Yeah.
It does.
I wanted to ask you previously, in your research that you did, is there something particularly that you took pride in, something that you discovered, or I'm not exactly sure how a research scientist gets their rewards, I guess.
I'm not sure either.
Okay.
There were a number of things that got me going, kept me going. But I think the one that kept me the most interested, and had to walk away from it, was the specific and non-specific shutting off of the immune system. There was the take a break.
Okay.
I gotta think about this
Well,
one.
take as much time as you need, Yes.
That I wasn't involved in is autoimmunity. But you take it to another step in tumor immunity, you want to shut down the immune response against self, but keep it, you want to branch it out into non-self in terms of the tumor cell itself. And I was approaching this both from specific and non-specific mechanism. And none to work. It's just,
But something could stem from, come from that.
oh, yeah, but it
You worked with some interesting Nobel Prize winners.
well, yeah, I don't work with
Three?
more, but there were a bunch of them that probably none of the winners influenced my research. It was other people who influenced what I did, but the winners of the Nobel Prize gave me a perspective on how you treat other people in the field. There were some really good people who taught me well,
Oh,
and some who did not treat me so well.
wonderful. So life is not much different in that area
No.
than it is, yeah. We have a granddaughter graduating with her bachelor's in nursing in May, and she's such a crackerjack about stuff. I'm wondering if she wants to go on to be a doctor, but we'll see. She's got to take a look at it. Okay, so as far as the community things are concerned, is there anything that you see in the horizon that you think should be addressed and that you're hoping to see in the future that would be beneficial to Herman?
I think one other thing, and it was another reason why the foundation, community foundation, got started here was Carl has had a dream for a long time of a indoor pool and recreation complex here in Herman. And I think I'm on the foundation board now. Carl's health, he stepped down and who knows, he may go back on, I don't know. There are a lot of different funds on that, and I think the recreation complex is still a fund that's just kind of sitting there, hoping that someday it will grow. And
Well, I think they did a recent poll on County News Live, and that was one of the list of
Number
things.
2.
And it came, yeah, it got high votes for that, yeah, that'd be great. Could that be an extension of the care, or the health facility, the senior center that's coming up?
No.
well, if that foundation would like to
Fund it?
do something, that would be wonderful. It would be great to get the money for that, but I don't know that that would be a part. I don't know that that's in their plans right now.
Okay. That, on kind of a personal level, do either of you have special hobbies that you truly enjoy and want to share?
I enjoy golf.
Do you get to play often enough?
Not enough.
Okay. Okay. How about you?
I like the vegetable garden.
Okay. Okay. Good. And you do quite a bit of. You do a pretty big garden, don't you?
Yes, he does.
And
More than we need.
have lots of helpers come in, huh? Good. Good. And I also want to ask you about any special memories of Maifest, besides the weather. Or you could even elaborate on that. We've had so many different weather changes.
Well, I think it was the second year we were here. We were asked to be judges of the parade. And then the year of the Lewis and Clark, Carl was very involved in that committee and helping organize everything for the Lewis and Clark event that year.
That's still an event with good memories. I think that went off really well.
That was.
It had to be a lot of work.
That was.
And, you know, we still have the after effects of that. They still come annually in December, the St. Charles group, I think, and have an event here.
So they do.
So that, you know, when you have something that extends from an event that you work so hard at, it helps a lot. That's
I
great.
remember that event well. It threatened to flood out the whole of the campground. The flood level was right there. and it's sad to ebb away.
Yeah. It could be sad.
That was 9 years ago, because our oldest grandchild, who is Sioux Indian and Guatemalan,
Okay.
and he had a head of black hair, and the Lewis and Clark group had this enormous Indian. And the Indian picked up Reese, our grandson, and raised him up like this, and here was this little baby in this
Oh.
humongous
Yeah.
Indian. I think we still have pictures of that.
Oh,
But,
wow.
yeah, that was neat.
Yeah, that was a really nice event. So, is there anything else you'd like to share with us? Thoughts that you'd like to contribute to this?
I would like to make a further pitch for the Recplex, as we call it.
Yes, elaborate on what your dream is there.
It's way beyond what a humble person can think of in terms of indoor pool, jogging facilities, meeting rooms for community efforts, not just the small meetings that you can have groups for, but the larger meetings for the prom or even dentists. And the ultimate would be to roll that into putting 6 or 8 lanes for bowling in.
That is quite a dream. I think we'll see that happen. I mean, it's almost, if you do anything wrong, if you have the idea of the starts a fire, I think we'll see it. And maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of have a feeling you're thinking of that from a health perspective. There's so much going on now with the perspective of health and keeping your body moving and swimming. Sounds like it would be so good for seniors as well as our young people. And, the idea of having a place where there's really something close by for young people to do is definitely a need. Maybe that's not what sparked the idea with you, but
Well, I think while Carl was on the school board, he talked with the superintendent about an interest with the school for swim team. And while, of course, the school district doesn't have the money to put something like that in there, it would be a definite interest in having a swim team.
yes. Well, you really have me thinking about that now. That's
Well,
excellent.
the only thing that beat it out in terms of community interest, where it's the rebuilding of the streets. That's an old idea. This is a new idea.
Sure. And but it would be ongoing, and it would be something I think
Yes.
that would be really healthy for the community. That's a good idea. As well as streets and sewers. So.
Well, those are neat.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. I'm kind of where I want to be. Are you good with what we have?
Yeah, maybe, do you know, is there anything about the history of Herman that interests you?
Well, Carl's the history buff around the house, and he's the German in the house.
Yeah. Do you have any artifacts or something? I mean, it might be kind of fun just to like show something off if you have I don't know, old photos or anything that kind of shows off old Herman stuff that you might be interested in.
No, we don't have any old Herman things.
Oh, okay.
Old things that we do have, and it's not even related to Herman, but when Carl's mother passed away some 18 years ago, outside of Buffalo, New York, and we went up to settle up the estate, we found his father's diaries of World War II.
Wow.
And his father was the first American surgeon allowed into Dachau at the end of the war. So we found all of his diaries through the whole war and some beautiful tapestries. Don't know how he got them, but we do. And then also his father's journals of when he first started practicing medicine, and for getting your appendix out or your tonsils out, he was paid with chickens or eggs or things like that. So, but Herman artifacts, no, we don't have any.
No.
Just the German.
Mm-hmm. Did you know those diaries existed before your father passed away?
I remember, but it really was when I sat down and read them after he passed. It explained a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he spoke very little of World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of understood why.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Now, were either of you in military service?
I was with the public health service, and it's only recently been acknowledged as a armed forces, and that's the Coast Guard.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
They gave us you could stay at NIH or you can go to Thule, Greenland.
Oh, and you chose.
NIH.
That's right, you did mention that. How many years of service was that?
3.
Okay.
3.
Mm-hmm. Well, we should probably thank you for that service, then, that's for sure. So, and do you have any photographs of your family or you early in Herman or something? Tony can do pictures of those here, even if they're in frames. And then he just kind of intermingles and
You see what it looks like.
Now, I'm not going to ask you a lot of questions, but I'll get you started, and we're just going to let you tell how you're acquainted with them and how you feel about their service to the community and so forth, and personally as well. Actually, my questions won't even be on here, so it'll just be like a testimony.
There's nothing wrong with you having questions on the air too.
No, yeah, we're just doing it a
Yeah, you
little
did
bit
have questions for Wayne, I know you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So, but yeah, I've got a few here, and I've got a little detail about those two.
Okay, yeah, we're rolling.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to tell us how you became acquainted with Carl and Paula?
This is, I don't know whether I can even remember. It's been since I've been married, because since I've been married to Betty, I've met all of these people. And it started, I guess, at the hospital. Nearly everything started at the hospital because my wife had been there and they did a great job. She was in their nursing home area.
Mm-hmm.
So after she passed away, I decided to join the auxiliary. And she was already involved in the hospital. And Carl, of course, was on the board. And little by little, we just got to working together. And since I was on the auxiliary board, or joined the auxiliary, she started assigning, and of course that's where this one came in. We were assigned on equal projects, and Carl, of course, is, I guess you would say he's methodical in his thinking. She is a go-getter on everything she does. She was president of the auxiliary, and she continued whatever came up and say, well, Paula can do it, you know. So that's basically where I got started with them, and then we just grew into everything. That's how we grew into the cancer. That's how we grew into all the rest of the stuff that we worked together on.
So were you instrumental in helping with helping him with the scholarship fund, or that was Paula's?
No, we were both there. I was on that board. We had a committee, a scholarship committee, and your constitution called it. We had to have a doctor, a nurse, and all these different things. And even the first year was very successful, and we've had some very successful scholarships.
What about the Relay for Life? Was that something that you were involved with them as well?
I was, but we don't talk about it because they are very, very unhappy with us. When we came into our new one, once again, Carl and Paula were the ones who were instrumental in starting that. We were making, on these other ones, we were making lots of money, and nothing was going back here to speak of. And we thought it would be a good idea if we started this Herman Area District Crusade Against Cancer. And by doing that, we could bring money home, and we did. We brought thousands and thousands of dollars here. And so we felt it was very much worth our time and effort.
You served on the board, the hospital board with?
I've been on the hospital board, I guess, for the last 6 or 7 years. Mm-hmm. And this year, Randy decided he wanted to quit being the president of the board, so I am.
Oh.
Yeah, I was the handiest things. I was sitting there, and it was, you know, it made it easy to nail me. So.
What about the community meals program? How did that?
Oh, well, that I inherited too. We had someone else that was doing it with Betty, and she moved away. But before she moved away, she decided to not do it anymore. So Betty and I started doing it. So we worked on that. Mm-hmm. But it was only once a month, and that wasn't too much work. But as we got older, as we are right now, no meals on the snow or ice, not in the wintertime. Mm-hmm. So we quit that particular one.
Okay. The organization, the Community Foundation of the Herman area, affiliated with the Community Foundation of the Ozarks.
Yeah.
What is your recollection of that getting started with stuff?
Well, the recollection of getting started was fine. We did. We met several times, and just figured the pros and cons. And it looked like a good way to handle our money, because they did a lot of the work that we would have probably had to pay to be done, or we'd had to use somebody who probably was not as skilled, and they had a whole staff. So we invest our money there, and we actually get money back from there that is much better. It's a little more complicated to pay your bills, but in general, it's one of the best things we happen as far as handling our money.
Let's see, what else was I going to ask you about? Oh, did you have any involvement in the courthouse restoration program that Dr. Pierce started? I think that was in '06.
Not
the
really.
Fund on that?
Originally, I sat in, I think, on the first meeting, but I really had not much to do with that, other than the fact that I was very much in favor of it, but I didn't do anything to particularly handle it. Mm-hmm. And Carl did a lot of that. Carl did a lot of the start off on that stuff. Mm-hmm. And here again, he had his ideas about how to do it. And this is an interesting thing because he and Paula don't always agree on the approach you make on something, but they work together very well on these type of things, on the ones you're talking about right now. And I guess in this particular case, he won out. But they work together, and they also bump heads together occasionally.
So on a personal level, do you have anything that you think is particularly notable that we should include in besides that?
Oh, I think the fact that with Paula, she has accepted just about anything we have put on to her. Now, she's not the president of the auxiliary this year, but she is a district officer. So she is in the district part of it. And of course, Carl, with his problems now, with his medical problems, he's not nearly as active. But he was very active on the school board. He was very active on the hospital board. He was very active on the
Seniors housing.
yeah,
Senior
he was in on the housing, and he was in on the scholarship. So he served his time, so to speak. And of course, he had the credentials coming into the thing full blast. So we have, as far as working with him is concerned, we work very closely with him. And Paul is bound to determine I'm her stepfather, so so it works out very well.
That's good. Okay. Oh, let's see. I think I know that seems brief, doesn't it? But
We've gotten into everything,
Grants.
on your,
Historic home and stuff?
Oh,
but on
Carl worked on grants.
grants
A
through
lot of grants.
the community foundation.
yeah,
Not
No.
only that, I guess.
Oh, just
not much in the grants now. That's
Not
going
now.
to another area. But he's the influence he's had on a lot of stuff because of his background. I think that other than the fact that I was impressed with the fact that he was, and Paula is very proud of that fact, that he was apparently a bang-up doctor as far as doing research is concerned. So he had research is all he did. And apparently he's had lots of awards on that stuff. So that does tell you he had the analytical mind anyhow. And I think he has a PhD, I'm not sure. I know he has his MD. But they are very, very well qualified for being the marshals for the parade, I will say that.
excellent, I agree. Okay.
Memories of former
Oh, I
Maifest?
forgot to ask you if you have any special memories of Maifest.
Of Maifest?
Uh-huh.
Well, probably the fact that I did cattle corn. I'm in the Lions Club, so there's been a lot of cattle corn. And that's what we remember on the Maifest, the Oktoberfest, and what's all the Shelby's, Shelby Fest,
Fest.
all of that stuff. So mostly through that. But other than that, I haven't gotten that close to the Maifest.
Was Dr. Pierce in the Lions? In the Lions Club?
Yes, he was, but he's not now.
Okay.
He resigned. He was president at one time, and he resigned, I guess, about 6-7 years ago. But he's in everything else, I guess. I think he was. I don't know whether he was in the chamber or not. I'm not sure of that. But I do know that he worked with the chamber a lot. And mostly his stuff has been, as far as I'm concerned, has been cancer. That's been the biggest and the strongest. And he created, I think he has created everything from the logo that they use on down to the system that they use. And he still sits in on our meetings. So we usually have him over at her house. And we still, for the hospital, all the fashion show, this golf tournament,
charge.
all the other things that we have, all the money raisers, all the fundraisers we have, she's right on the top of them, so.
Okay. Maybe we should elaborate on, and Tony can rearrange all this, but
Yeah.
maybe we could elaborate on the crusade against cancer. And do you have any idea what, I know the first year it says you raised $20,000 the first year you did it. Do you have, might want to mention what comes back to the community through the crusade?
Well, after 5 years, I think we put out like 150,000 plus. And this has all come back to the community in the way of gasoline cards, even airfare in one place where they had to go to Texas, I think. So we have put money into this area, and that was the whole idea. If somebody comes into the crusade and they want to have research money, we'll send the research money to the American Cancer Society. But otherwise, we make the decision on how to spread it out. We have a very, very efficient committee that figures all of this stuff out, including medical people as well as financial people. And they figure, and when the applications come in, they decide, it's their decision, how much, where, and how the money goes, which is, to me, is great.
Yes, it is. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Are you sure you don't want to say something?
She said something. Did you pick
I
up?
did.
Did you pick up?
I
what
did.
she-
I don't even remember what, but I was,
But you can't keep
you
your mouth
aren't
shut.
recording this right
you
now.
are.
Well,
Yeah, no, it's still
but
going.
he takes it. He could
No,
snip
well, I
out.
just, this is about.
Well, you have
You
already,
know, we're always
you've already
using
said a few
we,
things, and he's already
we,
recorded
which
it.
He
So.
did. He's always included,
Ah, yes.
My deal about Paula is that you put her in charge of anything, you do not have to worry one bit, because she stays with it from the beginning to the end. And I consider her a very, very good friend, and she and Carl both. And we have been friends since
Oh, we forgot to tell
we've
you.
been here.
Carl is a gourmet cook.
Carl
He is
good.
very, very good. He has certain things that he has his thing in the kitchen, and he does it. Still.
He's carving too. He was
Oh,
carving,
yeah, he carves
carving
like
the
a
duck
surgeon,
the other
you know.
evening.
Good. That's what we wanted to hear.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can edit and put it all together and see what you come up with.
Yeah.
All right.
But
You want to say something else?
no, I just make it known that they're very good friends. Paula's a very good friend.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And a take charge person, definitely a take charge person. And if she sets her mind to do something.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about how you and Dr. Pierce got started with the Community Foundation of the Ozarks for Herman?
Yeah, now that I think about it, I can't even recall exactly how I met Dr. Pierce and Paulo. We came back to Herman in 2000 after my father had a heart attack, and it seemed like became acquainted with the Pierces very early on. Probably it was in conjunction with some of the events, such as back in those days, the Relay for Life, the fundraiser for the American Cancer Society, that has subsequently evolved into the Crusade Against Cancer, or it might have been working with the Hospital Auxiliary or one of the other initiatives that we were interested in to help the community. But at any rate, we've been friends a long, long time, we've done many things together. I've certainly appreciated what both Doc Carl and Paula have done to help our community. Been involved in many, many things, including the issue about preserving and retaining our local courthouse. One of the interesting things at least to me, that Carl and I were involved with, was the creation of the Community Foundation of the Herman area. And that happened, I guess, some 7 or 8 years ago. On one occasion, Don Althauser and I were visiting, and we had told all the hunting and fishing stories that both of us knew. And Don mentioned that well, he had encountered an interesting situation, and that the town of Herman needed something they hadn't had prior to then. And it needed some sort of a very broad investment vehicle. And he described that he had some clients who remain unnamed, of course, but they wanted to do something nice for the community. They had inherited a bunch of money, or willed a bunch of money. And of course, they wanted the 501c3 tax benefits, didn't want to work it through any of the local churches or the other organizations that were available. Wasn't broad enough to do whatever their vision of some good for the community was. So the money went elsewhere. So happened that a few weeks later, after hearing Don's story, I was attending the Merrimack Regional Planning Convention banquet out at Owensville, and the featured speaker was Gary Funk, who was the president of the Community Foundation of the Ozarks at that time. And he described this situation, this organization, and how it worked for the benefit of rural communities. And I got to thinking that'd be really nice, but I just wonder if there's that sort of generosity and interest in Herman. And I was skeptical that there would be. But then he mentioned that there was a small community in south central Missouri that, thanks to some wealthy landowners who didn't have any heirs and left their assets through the community foundation of that particular community, that as a result of that action, that school district would never again have to be concerned about state or federal funding. I found that to be very interesting, and followed up on it with a few questions with Gary and some of the community foundation staff. Was pleased with what I learned. Went back and reported to both Don Althauser and also Dr. Pierce what I had heard, and we involved Gerald Engeman along with us. And so, as I recall, Doc Pierce clipped a few stocks that he had and formed the initial pool of money. It's possible that a couple others might have thrown in $1,000 here or there. And we formed the Community Foundation of the Herman area, which I believe at that time was the 39th or 40th affiliate of the Community Foundation of the Ozarks. Got off to kind of a rocky start. It was a hard concept for people to understand. Community foundations are all about retaining rural wealth in the rural communities to be put to use for the benefit of those rural communities, and certainly with some thought giving to the youth, and trying to ensure that the rural schools can provide the same opportunities that are available to our children in the urban areas. This was of particular interest to Dr. Carl, because he had long had a dream of having an appropriate, well-appointed and also well-staffed and endowed recreational facility for the youth in Herman. And I'm hopeful that he and I will live long enough that we'll see that happen. And it could happen through the function of the Community Foundation. That help at all?
Yes,
Part of that can
helps
be
a
added
lot.
in.
Also, since this event is going to be at the courthouse, if you would elaborate on your, how you got started with getting funds together to, I assume, to buy the properties around the courthouse. Did you and Dr. Pierce work on that, or the forming of the courthouse society? Was that your, or maybe I'm misunderstanding?
Well, yeah, with respect to the courthouse, that was another issue that we worked with together and with quite a few other people. One of the major problems with the courthouse was the fact that it was landlocked. Basically, you had a public facility that was surrounded and bounded very closely by privately owned properties, so that it was at that point, under those circumstances, essentially impossible to do anything to improve the traffic pattern, the parking, or the accessibility, including even the driveway. So fortunately, we got the word around, and we were able to solicit some intense interest from a former Hermanite, former Herman family, in the presence of Joe Rately. And Joe happens to be the developer of the unique dog food breath freshener for canines called Greenies. And of course, he's got a soft spot in his heart for his hometown and his home area, the home school, and the town of Herman. And so Joe got involved in the courthouse initiative and actually provided nearly $800,000 for the purchase of the private properties surrounding the courthouse. And those were purchased, were donated to the Gasconade County Commissioners, or Commission, and are now available to see this project through and provide appropriate accessibility, parking, etc. And Dr. Pierce was, very directly involved in that. We did a lot of the early work through the Community Foundation of the Herman area.
Okay. Now, with regard to Maifest, do you have any special memories of Maifest that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, the Maifest, yeah. In the very early days, of course, I thought it was kind of neat. I always did like the knockwurst, and I wish we would have that again. It wasn't too big on the lemonade, but the sausage is really good, and I wish they would serve it more often. It was really interesting to watch the Maifest grow, and in the early days, going back into the 60s, as I recall, my father by that time had acquired the Sharp Corner Tavern. And in those early years of the 1960s, it was amazing, the tavern business in Herman during the Maifest. I mean, it was standing room only, I believe, at every tavern in town, particularly the Sharp Corner and the Concert Hall. And the volume of people was amazing. It was nearly impossible to get from one side of Herman to the other. Today, sometimes people get a little bit disgruntled when they have to wait at a stop sign for 2 or 3 minutes during Maifest, but they should have seen it during the old days, because unless you were going to walk, sometimes you weren't going to get through town. It was pretty fantastic. The rotunda shows I thought were neat. Of course, I was partial because the gal I was then dating, who's now my wife, was one of the performers in the rotunda shows. But I always liked the little history also, and there was some pretty neat history portrayed in those early pageants. I think Mim Schmidt and others did a great job.
Okay, I think we're good, huh?
Okay,
Yeah, that's
great.
didn't
Well,
take
I hope
long
you
once
got-
we got started.
Yeah, hope you